Welcome back, everybody, to the Arbor. I'm your host, the Kino Cowboy, and we're back on our normal schedule again. This time coming through with a Scorsese movie.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do a Scorsese movie that wasn't a mobster movie. And
Which he has a lot of. People say,
yeah, I
he's just
know.
a mob
Yeah.
movie guy. It's less than half his filmography.
Yeah, I'd like to do After Hours at some point.
Yeah.
And then Raging Bulls, one of his most famous movies.
I need to rewatch.
That's
I've been
not
watching since high school.
Yeah, there's some bangers out there. I mean, Silence. Silence is like the movie he's always wanted to make, and that's like two priests and 3 hours long. Like it's not. Yeah, people. Yeah. Now, does he make a good mobster movie? Yes. And the film we're about to talk about, is it his best movie? No, but it's still a cool movie. The King of
Yeah, it's
Comedy.
probably the lower end of Scorsese movies I've seen, but still a really good movie. He's just one of
Yeah.
those directors where even his misses are hits. So
And
and it's unique enough, or was until Joker came out. I'll try not to talk too much about that, but not mentioning it is kind of hard.
yeah, no, for sure. And of course I'd like to hear uh your take on it, since you've been trying your best at the comedy game for years now.
Yeah, trying and succeeding, I might add.
I'm not saying it like that. I'm just saying, like,
No, I'm an amateur comedian. I do bar shows and make beer money. I'm not featuring yet.
and so yeah, starring Robert De Niro in a non-mobster role, which he does some banger standout roles that, just like Scorsese doesn't always make mobster movies, De Niro doesn't always play a mobster. And I recently watched Bronx Tale that he directed himself, and he plays the straight guy, and I really enjoyed that. So
Yeah, and he's great in this.
oh yeah,
He's
right.
creepy, strangely charismatic, but also in that way of a guy who just wears you down. It's that type of charisma.
To me, Rupert Pumpkin is more of like the incel archetype than Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver.
I agree. And I haven't seen Taxi Driver in a long, long time.
Yeah.
I thought of rewatching it for this cast, but I didn't have time. But Bickle is alienated, but it is, I don't know, at least he's not a pussy, which is kind of which is kind of necessary to be an incel, I guess. I mean Rupert, spoilers, kidnaps a guy. Um so he's not a complete wuss, although he does it using a cat gun, which you have experience with.
Oh,
But
yeah, we won't get into that now. That's a tale for another time.
is Conan sitting on his throne, but that is a story for another day. R.I.P. Mako. But nah, god damn it. I wish we got that third Conan movie. Sorry. It's never gonna happen. So upsetting. That's my white whale of what if projects. And it
Yeah,
probably wouldn't be good, but what if it was? And
yeah,
we're not talking about that. No, he has this weird obsession with it's being loved. Travis feels like the system is broken. His motivations are political. This guy just wants to be loved, and you get all of his backstory really as an info dump in that final monologue and that final set he does, which we'll talk about that at the end. And
yeah.
I that's where my comedy experience is going to come in. I have a few things to say, nothing revelatory. This is my second time seeing this movie. The first time I saw it was around when or shortly before Joker came out, because I was like, oh, Joker's coming out, I should watch King of the Comedy, get ready, which made Joker a lot worse, because then you just realize it is the King of Comedy. It's not like the King of Comedy, it is the King of Comedy.
Yeah, but when he actually goes on the show, it is a bit different.
Oh, it's a bit different. That's the thing. There's like one great scene in that movie, and the rest is like, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I love that scene, and the fact that they do use Robert De Niro in that scene is cool as hell.
And Robert, to quote Red Letter Media, it's nice when he tries. The guy's old as shit. I
Yeah.
didn't see that Sebastian Maniscalco movie because the Tales of My Father, I don't even remember what it's called, because who gives a shit?
Better than Al Pacino's ass doing the Dunkachino shit for
Yeah,
Jack
like
and
10
Jill.
years ago. What's he
I
doing
know.
now? He just had a kid. That's what he's doing.
That's fucked up, dude.
I remember I was getting my teeth cleaned, and like me and my dental hygienist had to paw. I had like a scalpel in my mouth, and I went. It was the news was on. I went when that story, and we had to like stop and talk about it for a second. We're like, that's ridiculous. Like me and my
And yeah, as a teenager, I thought it was far fetched the plot line in King of the Hill that his dad would have a son, Cotton would have a son that late into his life, name it GH. But like, no, that happens.
people do it. Theo Vaughn's dad is 70.
That's
I guess I think I don't know. That kid's probably more likely to be a comedian than Bobby Hill. He has the upbringing for it.
I still understand you're not going to be around to see the kid grow up. What's the
It's
point?
complete egotism. It has to be,
Yeah.
or just you're too slow and decrepit to pull out, and then I just spit on my. So King of Comedy, Rupert Pupkin. Yeah, he's an incel.
Yeah, and like,
He lives in his mom's basement, or at least we think he does.
yeah, well, we talk about that, but like, the thing about it though is like, at first you really before if you haven't seen the movie before, you really are hoping that like perhaps this is a guy like for like the first 5 or 10 minutes, you're like, well, maybe this is a guy who just needs a chance, and he's just doing whatever he can to try and get that chance. But you are like, you shouldn't have gotten in the car with Jerry Lewis or whatever he's named in this movie. But yeah, I don't know. Like for like the first 5 minutes, I'm hoping like, oh, okay, maybe, yeah, this guy just needs a chance. He's just it's hard to get seen, especially back then. And but then you get to the scene where Jerry goes up to his apartment and he keeps calling out to Jerry, and like he keeps trying to extend the interaction, and it's just like, oh my god. And then he gives him the card that says pride and joy on it. And you're like, oh no, this guy's a fucking dork. Because I
Yeah,
want to
dork's a good word. Well, that's something on a second viewing. It was interesting because on a second viewing, the entire movie is much more sinister because there's some plausible deniability, at least at the very beginning. Let's say the first act of how far is this guy gonna go? Is he, because you don't know that he's gonna end up committing a felony, pulling a Joey Diaz at the end there. But Joey Diaz is a comic arrested for kidnapping, but not to get on TV just because he's a G. But the so you don't know how dark it's going to turn. But as you watch it a second time, you realize with every step what it's escalating to, and it adds more tension to a second viewing, which is interesting. Most movies, you would think the first viewing is more tense. You don't know what's happening. So this is a movie that does reward a rewatch. Yeah, Jerry Lewis plays Jerry Langford, which is an interesting. That's one thing. Let's talk about that before we get too into the movie, because you said it was harder to get noticed back then. In the old late night system, the Carson system, Jerry Lewis is essentially Johnny Carson in the show. And being that famous, I mean, imagine being Carson in your prime, walking around Manhattan, and
yeah, but like, I think the satire of that really hit this time, because like a comedian being treated like he's Elvis or Michael Jackson in this movie, like people frothing in the mouth, like worshiping him and shit, was a little bit funny. It was silly to me.
Oh no, the excess of Sandra Bernhard, who's great and disgusting and disturbing in this movie, and a comic in her own right, an accomplished comic in her own right. But it's like, hey, Sandra, we want you to be you, but the worst version of you. No, she's not a comic in this movie. It's different. She's just wants to bang him, I guess.
Yeah, the thing is like she has the look that sells it, and I feel bad.
She has the look.
I'm sure she's a completely normal, nice person, but like she has that look that just looks insane when she pulls it off, dude.
She has that look of, she can look very nice. If you look at photos of her, she looks like somebody's aunt. It's fine. But if she has a scowl, she has that slight gapping in all of her teeth that It's not enough to be off-putting in normal scenarios, but with the scowl, she's able to use her features perfectly.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting with actors. There's some, I noticed this with TV actors, or at least back in the day, it's kind of changed, but TV actors, you would get attractive people, but they would kind of be normally attractive people, as in their features wouldn't be too distinct. And that made sense for the small screen because you just want pretty people. But then it got to the point where with movie stars, you usually have some sort of distinctive figure. Even Robert De Niro is a great example. He's an interesting looking guy to look at. And I don't know if I'd call him handsome. I wouldn't call him ugly. He's kind of weird looking, but not in a bad way. And you want that for movie stars when you're able to have all those features up on the screen. But yeah, Jerry Lewis, Nutty Professor's in this. I'm pretty sure Jerry Lewis was a piece of shit in real life, but to his family. But he earned it. He's rich, so you can do that. You can disown your children or whatever. That's fine. You earn it.
But yeah, it is interesting bringing in like such a seasoned guy, because he was like like comedians get some movie deals today, but nothing like Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin back then. Like they were in like tens of dozens of like movies and stuff, and like all the Jerry Lewis movies were popular and like hits and like really important to Paramount's like growth as a company. And it's insane when you look at that. And
no, and it's a sort of
it's like Elvis but good movies.
That gatekeeping doesn't exist like it used to. You'll have comedians do cameos, but I'm trying to think the last comedian stand-up who became a movie star. Tiffany Haddish? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I guess so. She's been in some movies.
She was in Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, she was, but she's not starring in a bunch of movies. But yeah, she's in some.
Yeah. You can make more money touring now. Comedy's gotten so big, you can make more money being a theater act. She's Tiffany Haddish.
Yeah,
sure. You can make a surgeon salary in a night.
I guess Chris Tucker was up there with like the amount of.
No, Chris Tucker was up there. Like we'll never have one. For example, we'll never have a comedian with the cultural penetration of Eddie Murphy again. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's the landscape's too fragmented. Also, Eddie Murphy's a genetic freak. He's just not normal. He started when he was a teenager and did Delirious when he was 27. It's fucked.
Damn.
That special is banger after banger. Just like one of the like Delirious and Raw are like Godfather 1 and 2 of comedy specials almost.
Yeah.
But no. Anyway, so it is interesting. I think our greater point is to watch this movie 82 and compare it to 40 years later, how the media landscape has changed. Late night is pretty much dead. It's for clips on YouTube now, which good riddance. It's a stale format. It's overstayed its welcome. Podcasts are way better. They're way more natural, way less staged. You don't have to play stupid games with Jimmy Kimmel or what's his name, the fat British guy, James Corden.
James Corden's retired now.
Yeah, he's retiring. Good. Or retiring, quote unquote.
He stopped doing a show like a week before the writer's strike started. Convenient
for him. You can do, I don't know, what else is he in? Sometimes he shows up in kids' movies voicing a character. Dude, what parent is gonna go, oh, James Corden is in Peter Rabbit, I should take my children? I don't understand.
Up in Ocean's 8. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Oh yeah, what did he do in Ocean's 8?
I don't even remember.
I don't remember it either.
Yeah, well, it's just like it's a shame of what Jimmy Fallon has turned into over the years, because like I liked the man in like sketches and like comedic shit, and of course he tries to have some of that on his show, but it's like so far gone now. I just feel bad that I feel like he like wasted his potential doing his late night.
No, I get it. Career wise, certainly it was the biggest thing he could have done. Yeah, but and I don't know how much you get paid for that. Probably a good chunk of change, but it is. I think he's a very funny comedic actor. He seems like a nice enough guy. He's a people pleaser, is what it is.
Yeah,
which is a good quality of having a late night host
for sure.
And it's very much catering to Midwest Olive Garden eating types. And I say that because he had a whole segment where it was just Jimmy and Post Malone go to Olive Garden in Times Square. That was the bit. That was the entire, it was an ad in the middle of the show.
Yeah.
And people laughed because they're dumb. Bo Burnham put it well, actually. Your favorite person, Bo Burnham.
Hey,
Like
man. I like Eighth Grade. That's a good movie.
yeah. You thought Inside was masturbatory, which it
Yes.
was, to be fair. But Bo Burnham has that thing. He put it best. A lot of those sketches and their complete celebrity worship is God is becoming human. Oh, look, they're just like us. They can play games and do stuff shit like that.
Yeah.
Having the Rock lip sync and do all that crap.
Yeah.
Ugh,
But
so
then,
gross.
but
But
really,
that's
like,
what this movie's getting at, and that this is
I know,
we're
but it's
in.
like that's where the satire really hit for me because I was imagining like imagine Jimmy Fallon walking out and people are worshiping at his feet and like screaming hysterically just because it's Jimmy Fallon. Like that's just not gonna happen.
No,
So
not in
that,
this day. I don't know if it would have happened with Carson. Not to that degree
to
as of
that
that
degree, no
time.
way. That is really funny to me because it was like
And
Michael
also, I'm
Jackson.
sure they had it where if it was a Tuesday night and he was doing late night, he was able to slip into his limo and get away without. They probably had a system in place. I'm sure.
Yeah, but
Or
in this universe, it's like the most important, best fucking show of all time, apparently.
I mean,
Like,
it kind of was at the time.
well, I know, but this is also fake. You know, I get he's trying to be Carson or
It's
whatever,
fake, and
but
it's also from the whole movie is from Rupert's POV.
yeah,
So there's an unreliable narrator essentially throughout the whole movie.
yeah,
And that was another interesting thing on a rewatch because it lets me question even deeper how much of what we're watching is real. Certain things are completely not real, such as Rupert and Jerry getting dinner at a white tablecloth
yeah. That's the
restaurant.
thing is like there are like several moments of extended daydream sequences that I really like, but that's the thing is like at first when he's just in his house doing shit and his mom keeps calling out to him and stuff and it's like oh he lives with his mom, what a loser. And but then it comes a question of like is his mom even still alive, is he just imagining this shit because you don't think it's going to get to that level, but then when you listen to his monologue at the end you're like well wait a minute, uh, how far gone is this guy? Because at first you're kind of wondering is this guy a complete like maniac or is he just a product of like the system? And like is he like actually completely mentally ill or is he's just down on his luck for so long that he's just like lost it, you know, because there's a difference of like, you know.
The answer is yes.
I know, but it's like because I don't know. I get because at the first third or so, I'm I under kind of understand his pain, you know, because I'm an artist. I know how hard it is to try and break through with your art, and I've been slowly doing that over the years. I've had little tiny success, but when you spend thousands of hours making films and they only get a couple thousand views, it starts to feel tiresome. But you can't give up, obviously, and he doesn't want to give up, but it can get kind of maddening when you're like, I can't figure out what corner to put this in and how to do it. And, everyone
Right.
wants to do it.
It's
That,
it's it's maddening now in a different way than it was
yeah,
maddening. Because then it just seemed like this is what it appeared like, that there were these gatekeepers and without them you couldn't do anything. Now in 1982 I'm pretty sure we were in a comedy boom of and hacks got work all the time because comedy clubs were opening up all over the place. And I mean, you were able to get road work your first year just because they needed people so badly.
yeah.
That sort of thing. Now it's definitely oversaturated, but there's a high rate of attrition.
It's
People,
oversaturated, but I mean, think about it now. Like you post a good funny clip to TikTok and now you've got 2,000 likes and now you have got some follow. like there's no gatekeeping there. Like if you have a good fucking set, you can put it on TikTok and people will laugh and follow you.
Right. And then it's a question of turning that into a career. I mean, you have
Yeah.
people like Matt Rife, who just from mostly crowd work clips. That's the thing right now is crowd
Being
work clips.
attractive.
Is like Matt Rife sold out a global tour, and he's like 27 or something. Granted, he's also been doing comedy since he was like 17, so respect. I can't hate the guy. Because sometimes people like to hate him because he's attractive. I'm like, well, I hate him a little for that. That's not his fault. He works out. But it is a maddening thing.
And I'd have
And
to,
we
yeah,
do have the part of the movie. Everybody wants a shortcut, and I think people now, there are people who focus more on social media or work on branding. I don't do the business part of showbiz enough. I'll say that right now.
yeah.
But there's a lot of people who don't focus on the show part enough, and so they're almost focused more on creative content or getting booked or getting connections, and those are important. But if you don't have an act to back it up, what are you doing? I mean, I've known people who will do comedy a week and change their Facebook job to stand-up comedian. Like that. Yeah, shit like that. If you had an ounce of self-awareness, and you have to have I mean, you can have blind spots, but you have to have self-awareness to do stand-up or really any kind of art, I think.
Yeah, which this man does not have, and he's on.
No.
You realize how delusional he is. It gets worse and worse and worse every time. The more he goes into Jerry Lewis's office or whatever, Langford, it just gets more and more absurd, and the daydreams get more and more absurd as time goes on, which is really funny. And
yeah, he's getting married to his high school sweetheart on the air.
Yeah, like that's fucking insane. And of course, this guy would still be obsessed with his high school sweetheart, dude. That's pathetic.
What's interesting is, so De Niro's about 40 in this movie.
Yeah, playing a 34-year-old.
Yeah, 30, mid 30s, something like that. So
Specifically 34.
Yeah, he said he's 34. Okay.
Yes.
And it's almost weird that I always wonder what happened now. How long has he been doing this, obsessed with this comedy thing? And what in the past couple months has made him go full on into this comic persona, into trying to get his high school sweetheart back? Because he could have done that in the intervening, 15 years, or what have you, but he didn't. Why didn't he do it then? And it's supposed to be vague, and you get a snippet of it, a slice at the end during his set.
Yeah, how does he afford all these suits?
Yeah,
he says he can't even pay rent, but somehow he's still
autographs. I think that's his job, is autographs, collecting autographs and selling them. There are people who do that, paparazzi who do that. And how long has he been haunting Jerry specifically?
Yeah.
Has he been hanging out that place for 8 months now and finally was able to get an in with Jerry just by sheer luck, as we see?
I think so.
Because a lot of these stalkers, they end up stalking more than one person. They have this weird parasocial inclination. Because I know Gabriel Iglesias, you know him, Fluffy.
Yeah.
So he's a comedian. He talked on Your Mom's House podcast about his stalker who'd been stalking him around. It obviously isn't threatening or anything like this. Although something tells me Gabriel Iglesias could throw a mean right hook. I don't know why. There's a bit of rage under there. He could swing it like, I'm not Fluffy now. But and anyway, Gabriel Iglesias' stalker had stalked Bob Hope and all these other guys.
Wow.
It's like his stalker showed up on a cane like after coming out of surgery, and Gabriel was like, dude, go home. What are you doing? Like,
yeah,
with a colostomy bag or something from his surgery, just hanging out. It's like, you need to rest. People are weird.
Yeah.
And now we've always had celebrity worship in this culture, but now we can interact with them. And also celebrity has been democratized. So in one way, it's good that the hallowed halls of celebrity have been breached and broken down,
Yeah.
because it's this. It's good that we see that celebrities are kind of idiots. I don't know. I kind of think that's good that we see them sing and Imagine, and that helps kill celebrity
Yeah.
culture.
It
Because we're
really
like,
has.
oh, these people are idiots.
But also like yeah, it's like these are just people, dude. Relax. And a lot of that has come down, and it's really important to come down.
No,
Also,
have you met a theater kid? A lot of them are insufferable.
I know,
I
but
know
it's
some
like
cool theater people. There are cool theater people, but like 60 to 70% of them are I can't even I keep at arm's length. Let's just say that.
Twitter, yeah, Twitter and Instagram. It's like you can go talk to any
Yeah. I could
celebrity.
go tweet William Shatner right now and he'll
Yeah,
probably respond.
it's like not a big deal, you know. I remember I had a back and forth with Ryan Johnson, you know, no big deal. It was just like okay, and
Whoa, dropping names.
I know, but it's just like that getting off them off that high horse is important, and the death of the movie star I think is important, but also I'd rather it not be where Captain America is more famous than Chris Evans. You know, that kind of
Yes.
sucks. But like,
That's the thing is the death of the movie star, so called, does have its drawbacks, because that just means branding. Again, I think it's interesting that everybody thinks Barbenheimer. They're like, oh, thank God it's original, and it is. But people still, you still needed a brand to go see that movie. But arguably, it makes the movie better than what if it was about like some off-brand Barbie, quote unquote Barbie, and that was the movie commenting on Barbie. Would that make it a better movie? I don't know.
yeah,
This
I
isn't
don't
our
know.
Barbie cast. You can see that last week, but
I don't know, but obviously this came out a year after John Hinckley Jr. tried to kill Reagan, and
oh shit.
he was obsessed with Jodie Foster, who was like 12, 13, and stalked her and was like
She was a
obsessed.
prostitute.
He just now got out of jail, I think, just recently.
He's making music. He has a YouTube channel.
40 years later.
We're partnered with him. You can subscribe right here.
No, but that's just what it made me think. I was like, well, I wonder if that influenced this in any way or not, because maybe it was too far into the process of being made, or I don't know. But it was interesting that it was only like a year after that, because that was such a major deal.
No, I do wonder. I wonder. I can't believe there's no way this took a long time to shoot. It's all in New York. Um, it's all just on the street. You don't have to build any
Yeah, it's
stages.
not. Yeah, it's a pretty probably a very easy shoot, I'd say, and it's
Yeah.
only it's a good length too. You know, hour
Yeah, it's
45
an
ish.
hour 45.
Yeah, ish. Yeah,
Yeah.
the pacing it doesn't feel long at all.
No, it doesn't.
But that's the thing
I
is
was
like,
actually surprised that we were 55 minutes into the movie when we got to the kidnapping, which I thought it came later, but rewatching, I think, oh no, they kind of
yeah,
get right
no,
to it.
yeah, it's like okay, we got to do this. But and that's the thing is like every good director can go. If you're a good director, you can go into New York and shoot it a completely different way from anyone else. And the way Scorsese shoots this, all the city scenes of this movie, they really make you feel like an ant, like swallowed up by like
Yes.
a storm, you know, like a crowd. And
No, it feels like I've been to Manhattan, and it's accurate to the headspace. Scorsese, he's not just a New Yorker, he's the New Yorker
yeah,
director. So, I mean, who else is going to do it other than him, bro?
yeah. But it's just like I love that everyone could shoot in the city, and if you're talented, you're gonna make it look different from everyone else. And
Yeah, compare this to, I don't know, Kids, or I don't know, what's another movie in New York? Midnight Cowboy. I don't know. I'm not just gonna
yeah,
start naming
for
every
sure.
movie. I'm not gonna start naming every movie made in New York, shot in New
Heavy
York.
traffic.
Yeah, Borat.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. But so yeah, Rupert he starts going into Jerry Lewis's office, and because he thinks he has a fucking appointment with him. And obviously Jerry just wanted to get him off his back. He didn't think he
And it's one of those,
was going.
does he at some point where deep down does he know I don't really have an appointment, but if I badger these people, they'll let me talk to them? Or does he really believe that Jerry wants to
I
see
think
him?
he really believes it. I think he's that delusional.
Yeah.
On rewatch, the first time I wasn't sure, and then now on rewatch, I think he's got some sort of mental illness, and he is completely delusional.
Well, yeah, certainly mental illness. But no,
I know,
I
but
I,
it's
I
like,
tend to agree with you on a rewatch.
well,
Yes.
yeah, because like the first time I watched, I'm like, this guy, is he just trying to be slick, and he's just trying to be like do whatever it takes, or is he just like delusional, like I said? And he is, yeah. He just thinks Jerry actually wants to talk to this guy, and I don't know. Work on your act, you idiot, and like submit a tape. You know, you never know. And it's the most insane part, I think, is when we learn that he doesn't even go into clubs to practice his material. Like,
No,
what the fuck are you doing?
that's like people now who show up on Kill Tony and they've never done stand up before.
Yeah, I'm
And,
like,
and they're supposed to do a minute and they only have 30 seconds because they didn't time it out. Just delusional. Now we ridicule those people. I would like to see Rupert Pupkin on to Kill Tony with
yeah,
Joe Rogan and Tony
Jesus,
Cliff roasting him. But it's an insane thing. And that is funny. I think they try to pot him off on the clubs. They're like, call us when you start working with the clubs. And they say, once you start working with the clubs, we will definitely look at your tape and be interested.
we'll come check out your act.
We'll come check out your act. And I think she means it. A,
Yeah,
she's trying to get rid of him, but B, she actually means it. But then C, she knows that this guy's too crazy to start getting work with clubs. I think she knows it at some point.
yeah. Well, at first, but like he, it's his own fault. Go fucking go work at like do open mics. What are you doing? He's
Open
that
mics,
delusional that
bro.
he thinks it's like it's good enough, doesn't need any changes. And that's like me trying to submit like a high school a short film I made in high school, and all these years later, and keep trying to submit that into festivals or something instead of
Yeah.
trying to work on it's like, what the fuck
Or
now?
you write the rough draft of a book and you're like, I don't need an editor. I don't need
Yeah.
any readers. I don't need to rewrite any of
And that's
these
the thing. In
sections.
high school, I felt that way when I would make short films. I'd be like, I don't need anyone's input on editing this or anything, or this is perfect as it is. And I had that in my mind when I was a teenager, and but also then you grow up and quit being a fucking
Right.
idiot.
Well, the thing about comedy, and this is what I like about it, and also what makes it so damn hard, is that you can't really pretend because the crowd's right there rating you
Yeah.
in real time, which is why most people can't do it
Yeah.
because they can't handle it. I've just been, doing it for over 4 years now, so now I'm dead inside and don't feel anything when people, don't like my act. But the yeah, he doesn't want to face that. And it's complete disconnect from what it is. It's also an interesting thing with stand up. I will talk to people. Our friend Sumner, for instance, who has been on the cast. Um, he at almost 30 years old went to his first stand up show. He went to a Neil Brennan show at Zany's in Nashville, which is a good club. And he was like, I had never seen stand up live, and it's like his opinion of the medium changed because he had never truly seen it before. And then
Yeah.
he was like, "Oh, this is a live thing, and every show is different, and it's its own organism." And that's a weird thing if you watch a lot of late night sets, especially nowadays. It's such a weird, sterile, manufactured environment, and the way they have those, you do have to, and they do it in this movie. You have to submit your script ahead of time, and you cannot deviate. You cannot riff. They have to approve things. Anthony Jeselnik, uh, he has a joke where he did a late night set, and he's a very dark comedian. So dark it's not even dark anymore because it's just absurd. Because if you took his act for um like verbatim, as if you took it as true, then he would be like a multiple serial killer, like have killed multiple of his girlfriends, physically assaulted and beat children. Like it's insane. But he had a joke where the punchline was Asians in a laundromat or something. And they said, "Hey, you can't do this. Can you rewrite this joke?" And he said, "They could be working on a railroad." And they're like, "That's perfect." And he's like, Okay, that's way more offensive, but okay, whatever works for you.
What the fuck?
It's like that's way worse.
What the
I don't. My
hell?
point is, late night's weird.
Yeah. A real question. Well, I assume so because she mentions his one-liners, but do you think she actually listened to the tape?
I think somebody maybe did. She did, or
Yeah.
maybe an intern did, and gave him the notes. Um, it's something. It could have even been a morbid curiosity, because wouldn't you, if you were working at the show and some rando came up with a tape, you would be like, "Screw this guy," but also let's see what he's got. Let's see how
Well, she
unhinged.
doesn't know that far in. He's just very pushy, and he's probably
Exactly.
just trying to get noticed by her. So I think she probably did listen to it. Maybe it was like, you never know, that the curiosity of like, what if this guy is actually really good and we need to give him a chance. I don't know. But then after that, the rejection, and then he actually tries to go into the fucking back of the office and shit.
Yeah, he's walking around the offices. People
Yeah.
chasing him. I
Yeah.
forgot that scene. That scene
Yeah.
is intense, and
That's what
it's
he's
such a
doing.
juxtaposition because when it's the lenses he uses, and I don't know enough about lenses to name them all, but uh Scorsese shoots with these lenses that are very wide angle, and so uh Rupert is dwarfed by his surroundings in this waiting room, in this palatial. That is a very interesting looking waiting room. Um, Sort of palatial columns and everything, and he looks dwarfed, like he's this weird freak, being trying to break out of these surroundings. As his environment's warped around him, and then the juxtaposition when we go into these narrow halls, cubicles, fluorescent lighting, and he's running through there, you feel it visually shift to where it's just so much more tense because of it. Which it's kind of a filmmaking 102 thing, but Scorsese, and he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. I think the worst, I think early on, the first third of the movie, when you realize like, okay, this guy's fucked, is when he takes the high school sweetheart on a date, and then he just goes on and like shows off all of his signatures he's gotten from celebrities, and then he's like, what, you don't want to weigh in? I'm your way in, baby. Like, I'm gonna get you, we're gonna go places and this and
Yeah, when
that.
he shows his own signature.
Yeah,
Uh
yeah, that's the moment when he shows his own signature. He's like, oh, dude, that's like hard to watch. That's when it takes, I think, a shift, and you're like, okay, this guy is fucked. Because, like, oh man, not only is it his high school sweetheart, but like now he's telling her that he's about to be famous in the next 2 weeks and
yeah, I'm
shit.
kind of surprised. Why does she end up agreeing to go on the date anyway? Or is it
I
because
don't
she's
know.
like, yeah, he's cute enough. I'm bored. I'm a bored
She's
bartender.
bored, but she also, like, the whole time she's like tired and she's ready to go and shit. So, uh,
That's
yeah,
a that's always a terrible feeling on a date. I don't know. I've never had it to that extreme, but you're on a date and you can just tell like, and I lost her. The That's always fun. I probably
that's like,
shouldn't show off my signatures. Why?
oh my god, dude. That's the thing though, is like you get the escalation of the daydreams, and then like when he tries to or he marries her on late night or whatever, which is insane.
That's the most deranged one, I think.
Yeah, and then she she's like, she tells him off basically. She's like, I don't want to go do this or that, leave me alone kind of thing. So you think she's kind of out of the picture, which is a great setup, because when it cuts to her in that beautiful dress with him, and they're like going into Jerry Lewis's house as like a weekend getaway, you assume, oh, this is another daydream because it's so, picture perfect. And he's just imagining this nice little day at Jerry Lewis's house. But then you get, as it progresses, the butler, the guy who is in charge of the house, is like, what the fuck are these people doing here? And then it sinks. You're like, oh shit, this isn't a daydream. this is real, this is fucked. And I just love how that the buildup from the daydreams before is able to like make this shift that much
Right.
worse,
And
so
that,
much
that makes
worse.
me question the reality of every scene in the movie. Even in other scenes where um it's like, why, for example, in the waiting room, where the secretaries and or whomever are talking to him, uh how much of that dialogue we hear, just hypothetically, is actually being slightly twisted, and we're seeing it from Rupert's point of view.
Yeah,
And are they actually being more aggressive in reality, but he's not picking up on it, and we're not
possibly.
being shown it as an audience? Possibly. I don't really think so, but possibly it's a possibility. There's things like that.
It does make it
Because
fun.
there's also what stuck out to me. He does pick up the hostility from Jerry and the staff. He's not
Yes.
completely oblivious. He does pick it up. Obviously, he's like, well, I'll wait. Well, I'll do this. I'll do it. I'll just sit here. I'll wait all weekend. I'll sit here until Jerry shows up. But there's also the um completely delusional daydream of Jerry fake choking, almost like Bart in The Simpsons, because I'm so jealous of you, Rupert. I'm jealous of your talent. How do you do it? And he's choking Rupert. And I think that's Rupert's way of saying, oh, Jerry is hesitant to see me because he's jealous of me, because he thinks that I'll take over the show because I'm so damn talented.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also, like, I think deep down he knows a little bit to mind enough to mind his P's and Q's when he's inside of Jerry's house, because she's trying to go upstairs and use the bathroom and stuff. He's like, no, we should just wait down here and this or that. He could have just like walked around like he owned the place, and he was still trying to be real,
Yeah,
like,
so he's
respectful.
clearly not completely delusional, but he's delusional enough to where he thinks, well, maybe I can trick Jerry into liking me, into being my friend by breaking into his home. Jerry's just holding that 9 iron the whole time, real tight. Uh,
You feel so bad for Rita, like
you
she's
feel
been conned into
terrible.
this.
You can
And
see it on her face, and
it's
you can
great acting
see
too when she
it. Yeah,
realizes.
she's a good act. I haven't. What else has she been in? Much else?
I don't know,
Because
but
she's
while they're arguing, him and Jerry, and like you see her face in the background like change, and it's so like perfect.
oh,
Yeah.
she's the concession girl and Taxi Driver. I guess I don't know.
Okay.
Plays a minor bit there. Um, yeah, I don't think she hasn't been in a ton of stuff, which is interesting. She wasn't in a ton of stuff after this, some TV stuff. She's a good actress. No, and even the way it's shot and framed with Rupert, his side of the screen and the left 2/3 is more open, and then on the right 2/3 we have Jerry, and then in the background, kind of being boxed in the
Yeah.
frame by Jerry, is Rita, and you just see her expression become more and more crestfallen.
Yeah.
Um, as she realizes what's happening, because probably the only reason she agreed to go, obviously, is not because she was into Rupert, but if I said to some chick, hey, I know you don't really like me, but I'm friends with Carson. Do you want to meet Carson? Uh, they would say yes if I was able to trick them that was true.
Yeah. Of course. And of course he's selling it so hard, I don't know. But when Jerry's like, he tells him like, no, I was doing that to get rid of you, please stop this and that. Rupert finally does take that to heart, and he's like crushed, you can tell by it. And at least the delusions don't keep up after this,
No.
because he does take it to heart, like, okay, you just want to get rid of me, fuck you, basically.
Yeah.
And
Nuclear option.
yeah, and the when it immediately cuts to him holding a gun, it got a laugh out of me this time. Such a good cut. It's just him in the car. It's like, oh shit, we're going here.
No, it did. I didn't laugh out loud, but it did hit me as more comedic now, because I'm just like, God damn, because I know he's not going to use that gun. It's not a real gun, but
Yeah, and that there is that, like, at least it's not a real gun, I guess. Like, it's
No,
fucked that he puts Jerry through all this, but he wasn't going to actually kill him. That is, 1 degree less than Joker.
it is, and I think it's important because he idolizes Jerry. I
Yeah.
don't think he would kill him, even if he had
No.
a real gun. He wouldn't use it. Uh,
But
Jerry
it's
does.
like, once you realize that he's teaming up with the girl, and then you're like, oh, god damn it. Because she is like, she's completely unhinged. He keeps himself together more better than she does. And she, the whole movie's like, did you give him my card, this and that? And she's like pissed off. She walks around pissed off like the whole movie. Like, dude, who gives a shit about someone that much? Like, that's insane to think about. I
Yeah,
know
we
it's
don't
not
even get her backstory.
it's not
Lord
PC
knows.
to call people insane anymore, but
Is it not?
to some people, to city liberals, yeah.
I
But
I I heard I saw they live in Washington State, and somebody posted that the term idiot is ableist because it was originally used to describe the mentally handicapped, and I just read it and thought, okay, idiot. I'm still gonna.
yeah, I'm
I'm
not.
not. I mean, I'm not gonna run around calling people the R word, but
Yeah,
I'll call people idiots if they're being idiots. I don't
yeah.
know.
No, but just like
Anyway,
the way that she's like, you can tell she's just ready to do whatever it takes to get alone with Jerry. And it's like, I don't know, she sells it so well, especially in the car. I wish we could have learned a little bit more about her. Like, she obviously doesn't have to worry about money. She lives in a nice apartment, and she even gives Rupert some cash at one point. And I'm
yeah.
like, so you don't have to work. You just get to sit around and masturbate to Jerry Lewis all day, I guess. I don't, how did
Yeah,
this come about?
rich parents, they died. She was able they were probably keeping her on a leash somewhat, but once they
Yeah.
died, she was able to just use her fortune to pursue her passion. And her passion was Jerry Lewis.
Standing outside for hours and shit, like
Yeah, standing
every
outside
day.
Paramount or wherever that is.
It's
Uh
interesting though that neither of them have tried going into his office to get an appointment until now, because it seems like it's been going on for so long.
I think that was what I found interesting about the timeline of the movie, and you could chalk that up to having to be cinematic.
Yeah,
This is something that seems like it could take place over years, but it takes place over what, a couple weeks maybe. Um,
yeah,
and I think that's kind of just cinematic contrivance.
yeah, for sure.
Uh, because like we said, clearly he has to have been doing this for years. Because what was he doing then? What was he doing between high school and until now? And his mom died 9 years ago, uh, when he was, I guess, 25. Like, what happened in all that time? Has he just been running around getting autographs, and then he decided, well, I'm obsessed with celebrity. I should be a celebrity. What changed? Because
Yeah,
clearly, I mean, writing stand up, has he just had the same 5 minutes written for years, or did he write it recently?
possibly. He might have had this same routine for a while. I don't know.
Well, comedians now have to write a lot more material than they used to. They didn't even always write their own material. So he commented on it at one point. Rupert's like, I wrote it. I'm the writer.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, obviously,
obviously, late night hosts have writers
all
that
his
they.
material is based off of all the horrible shit that happened to him growing up. So, in the last 9 years, probably something broke him. His parents died, his mom died, or something. I don't know. Something just completely unraveled.
That plus a string of failed jobs because he's crazy and alienates all his coworkers. Imagine this guy works next to you in an office, and day one he's just kind of nice and annoying, and then by the third week you realize this guy is completely unhinged,
Yeah.
and it's showing me his Funko Pops and stuff on his cubicle.
Yeah. This the thing is like, he can be annoying. He talks a lot, but like, and then the girl, I don't even remember her name, but she's like yelling at him that he's being annoying and shit. And I'm like, dude, the way you're acting, you're more annoying than he is. You're fucking frothing at the mouth, acting like a maniac, trying to dress him up, trying to dress up Jerry Lewis like a fucking doll and like sweaters and shit, dude. Like, meanwhile, Rupert's like trying to figure out his plan to get on late night, and she's worried about what he looks like dressed up and shit. Like, that's fucked up, dude.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
And at first I was like, why can't they just trace the phone line to her apartment? But he uses a payphone for the rest of the time, so I guess that tracks. I don't know, but the real plan is, okay, I'm gonna keep him hostage so I can go on late night. And then we get the interesting scene of like the lawyer and the producers of the show and stuff all arguing about it, and like, oh, we're not actually gonna put this to air, we're just gonna record it and then we can do what we want with it. But Rupert wants to hold out until it has to go on live. And then they're not even sure if he has Jerry alive and stuff. I wonder how that would play out today. Obviously, it'd be harder to pull off, but
obviously, it is one of those things. And you do get the producer at one point saying, you know, a man's life is not 10 minutes of late night is not worth a man's life, which fair. And it is one of those things. Well, now late night doesn't even really get you famous. It's just another credit. So it'd be a stupid plan anyway.
Yeah, it's not the end all be all anymore. So it wouldn't happen. You could just
the whole thing of Johnny calling you over to his couch. I mean, there were some great comedians made that way, but also it's a weird.
Yeah,
I do think it's good that comedy, you can have niches now. You know, you don't have to appeal to everybody.
Yeah.
I think that's much better for comedy. In some ways, it's worse for comedy because you get people who can't break out of their niche. And it's also a weird thing where you have to start out being as broad as possible and then find your audience. So it's kind of frustrating because you have to maintain your voice while also trying to appeal to the widest swath possible. But it's good in that it humbles your ego and makes you just be like, well, this is a business. This is a job. This is a craft as much as it's an art, if not more.
Yeah, and it is funny because he could have gone up and like done some crazy fucked up things or something. But he's like, no, I have a clean set, you know, it's no problem. It's appropriate for TV and stuff. It's like, okay. And so at least he made, you know, whatever. It could be it could be a way worse scenario.
You know, it could have been way worse. It could have been I don't know, Joker. But you want to talk about the set?
Well, no, I want to say, okay. I want to talk about first of all, I love the bit where Jerry's lawyer's like, we're suing you. And he's like, what the fuck are you going to sue me for?
Suing who? For what?
Suing everyone. It's like, it's not our fault he was taken hostage, dude. Like, and it's just an insane situation. And,
no, that's fun. That's comedic.
And the whole time, Rupert's going on late night and shit. It keeps cutting back to now. Suddenly, all the candles are lit in her apartment. It's completely different, fucked up atmosphere, and he's like tied up. And I can tell like this scene influenced a lot of scenes that came after it. Like there's even that episode of Family Guy where Meg is obsessed with Brian and she has him tied up and shit after prom or whatever. It's the same kind of thing.
So, are you ready?
For what?
For the fun we're gonna have, Brian. We're gonna have fun tonight. Good, old-fashioned, all-American fun.
Listen, Meg, I'm not gonna lie to you here. I'm a little uncomfortable.
And that's when it escalates, especially when she starts taking off her clothes and stuff. She's like, you could see this like look in her eyes. She's like, anything can happen tonight. And the possibilities are endless. And you're like, oh shit, she's gonna ruin it somehow.
You can tell that she has a script in her own head. She's been imagining this over and over. And at one point, Sandra Bernhard is so good at it. She's talking to him, sitting on his lap, and she's like, I just want to get crazy. I just feel wild tonight. And just shaking her head and her hair and curls are bobbing all over the place. It's good, great performance.
Yeah, making your dick shrink inside your body, dude. Like it's like, fuck this.
Speak for yourself.
And he's pretty much silent the whole time this is going on. Like, what do you say, you know?
And which I think is an interesting directorial choice or an acting choice of just stoicism or silence. and just resignation. What else are you gonna do? He's dealing with these crazies. I also think to become someone like a Jerry Lewis or Jerry Langford or Johnny Carson, yeah, you gotta have thick skin. But does that apply to when you think you're about to get raped by a crazy woman with a gun? I don't. That's a bit much.
Yeah, and that's like, I do like we get to see the behind the scenes of him walking through the show set and stuff, acting like he's supposed to be there. Even to this point, he's walking around like they're expecting me. I'm the king of
Well,
comedy.
and he doesn't even understand how late night works because he just starts talking to a camera guy.
Yeah, he's that
like they're the
far.
person to talk to, and it's just a camera guy. What?
Yeah,
the guy he's setting up the lights.
That's actually really important. That now that you say that,
yeah, that he's still that ignorant as to how show business works. That's like me going onto a set and talking to a grip. Be like, hey, I'm here. So,
yeah. And I think as he's finally about to do it, even up to this point, you're wondering like, what's his set going to be like? Is it actually going to be? What if it's actually good? This or that? And it's not bad.
That's what stuck out to me when I first watched this movie, and what I find so interesting is that they so perfectly, because the entire movie hinges on this scene, and if the monologue didn't, or the set at the end didn't work, the whole movie wouldn't work. It would fall apart. And his opening couple jokes are okay. They're actually jokes, which is important. Surely they got comedy writers in on this, clearly, because the thing is, when you start stand up, you don't even really know how to write a joke. You're kind of just, a lot of the time, a lot of people just start by saying things that are funny. Like when I started, I would have to go back and listen to old tapes, which I don't want to because I'm sure I would cringe my ass off. But of my first set, I kind of had jokes and what sounded like joke structure and rhythms just from listening to comedy and over, but you don't really know. But he does have some actual, like one of the punchlines I legitimately kind of like. I'm not saying it's great, but is when he's talking about all this effed up stuff from his past, and he said, "My mom got a speed ticket for going 50." Yeah, mom, but in the garage or something. See, that's actually like a decent joke. Oh, that's a setup and punchline. And that's something I could see in a less crazy act. If that was surrounded by less unhinged material with good delivery, maybe spice it up a bit, I could see that getting a laugh at a club or something,
Yeah. Also, like, that's pretty dark jokes for the 80s, too. For
the 80s, it is dark.
But it does land. The most important thing is that he does actually have stage presence.
And yeah, because he's Robert De Niro.
I know, but like his character does. And like he has enough charm and stage presence to get some laughs out of these people on late night. So it is kind of crushing that it's not the worst shit. You know what I mean? Like if it would be embarrassing if it was just.
I've seen worse real late night sets, to be honest.
For sure. No, it would be fitting, and it would be fitting for him to just completely bomb and feel humiliated, and that's what he would deserve for going through with this. But it makes it way more interesting that it was actually a half decent set.
Right. Well, and a lot of it, listening again, it's even more unhinged than I remember. And because I think the first time I watched it, I was just shocked at like, oh, this is actual passable stand-up. And then you listen to it again, and I think it's clear that even though I do believe he really did get on TV and give the set, because we see throughout the movie, we say VHS TV style depictions that are daydreams or not real. And that's how the set is presented. However, we know that he's watching it in the bar with Rita. Okay. And the FBI guy. So we know it's happening.
That's definitely happening.
So that part is happening. I think the laughs piped in, even though he does time his performance around the laughs. I bet in the real recording, it would be more groans or more nervous laughter, but in his head, it's actually raucous laughter and applause. Potentially.
Maybe.
But there's also applause breaks and stuff maybe they're buying into it, because if the crowd is warmed up enough, they'll laugh at anything. There are certain times where you get on stage and you're like, I'm not this funny. I know I'm not. Like,
Yeah.
you guys are really good. You guys are a hot crowd, but
Yeah.
um,
But that is interesting because it's completely, that whole scene is something else completely. It's where you learn everything about him all at once, and you finally get some answers you were wondering about. Like, okay, his mom's dead. His dad didn't give a shit about him. He was bullied at school. Like, he had some shitty shit happen to him.
Alcoholic mom.
Yeah.
Beaten by his dad until he threw up on his shoes, and that was a joke. I'm an adult now.
Yeah, dude, that's fucked.
It's insane.
And so it really all comes together in this one moment, and for that one moment he gets to show his high school sweetheart, like, I'm on TV. He did it, I don't know. So,
and the winos in the bar are actually impressed.
Yeah.
Just because the star power of the TV does it.
Yeah.
It's
and
interesting.
in the 80s, such a big deal. I don't know. I feel like this movie definitely comments hard on the gatekeepiness of actually being able to get onto TV and do your thing. I don't know.
Right. And Scorsese, I think, dealt with that in his own way, because he was part of that generation of filmmakers that during the waning of the old studio system was able to capitalize on it. He was making studio pictures, as they say. But he was also able to do it in his own way and do it in a more auteur-driven way. So he has his own frustrations with the studio systems of his era and right before his era, I'm sure. And I know he has his frustration with them now. So clearly there's a filmmaking parallel with this.
Yeah.
I mean, there's even... I'm looking. IMDb has the entire quote, the entire monologue as a quote, and I'm reading that some of these: no one is allowed to be too poor in Clifton. Once you fall below a certain level, they exile you to Passaic, which I don't really know those towns, so I don't know how those local references are. But that's the same thing as, like, we live in Arkansas, in Little Rock. If you make fun of Saline County or other things, local humor, it's pandering, but it works. But here's the thing. What's weird is in late night is those aren't New Yorkers watching most of the time. It's all tourists who are coming in. And then he goes more into the vomit stuff. Yeah, about half of his monologue is about vomit, so it gets kind of weird. But he did...
Really sad.
It is sad. And that's what I said more about the laughter being real. Are people really laughing at him talking about, no, I really kidnapped Jerry? Because at first I kidnapped Jerry. No, I really kidnapped Jerry. And tomorrow you're going to realize that I wasn't joking and that I'm crazy.
I think that's such an insane concept that it was subversive enough that people were like, oh shit, this is funny as fuck, that he would take it this far.
Yeah, it's like an Andy Kaufman type thing. Like, oh, this guy's being real meta.
I could see America latching on to that, and it being an insane story in the news and a big deal. And that's the thing, is like, 86 million people watched it. Okay, he's going to get out of jail in 2 years. He got out of jail after only 2 years, and then he got a book deal, and that book is being turned into a motion picture. And you're so caught up in it, you're like, holy shit, this is fucking crazy. And then you get the brilliant final scene where it all snaps into focus, and you're like, wait a minute, this is another daydream. We've been fucking fooled again.
Right.
But then you get the wonder of, well, maybe what if this, I like to believe it did happen, that he did get a book deal, because that would be insane.
I think it's realistic. It's the commentary. Enough. I think that's the commentary he's really making, is our obsession with celebrity. Is it's real enough where I believe somebody could get a book deal.
Easily. I mean, we'll think about it. We have, first of all, O.J. Simpson wrote a book about how he would have done the murder.
I was just going to say that.
And then we've got plenty of obsessions throughout our American pop culture history. Jordan Belfort from Wolf of Wall Street. He toured after the Wolf of Wall Street movie came out, and people bought his books and shit on that.
Yeah,
And
even though he's a criminal.
most recently, Tiger King, who is signing autographs in prison to this day. So it's not that far fetched to me.
Charles Manson will get love mail. He got married while in prison to some chick outside prison.
So clearly,
way worse than Rupert
the
Pupkin.
shit at the end repeating over and over is like, okay, this is probably most likely in his head, which is great, but also it might not be. You never know. I don't know. That the fun of it is, for me, I like to think that he did get a book deal. Now he's a millionaire because of his stunt, and he was successful. And imagine Jerry Lewis or Jerry whatever having to go on and live like, okay, this guy is now famous, even though he kidnapped me. And but also it's funny, like,
welcome back on the show, Rupert.
Jerry,
yeah, this time we're both on camera.
Jerry, when he escapes from her clutches, like, he does this really lame slap to her.
Yeah.
If it was me, I would have knocked her fucking lights out. Once I realized the gun was fake, I'd be fucking
it'd be
off.
over. Well, I almost think the thing, he's almost like, he almost chuckles and then he almost pities her, I think.
Yeah.
And I think he realizes the threat's gone and you're just this crazy person and I'm too good for you almost. And maybe Scorsese just didn't want to film a woman getting punched.
I know. It's just like, if it was me, dude.
Or Jerry Lewis had, like, I don't know. Knowing Jerry Lewis, he probably had like 7 lawsuits on him at that time for beating women anyway. I don't know. I don't know if that's true.
I was raised to, of course, never lay a hand on a woman, but if I was tied up like that and almost sexually assaulted or possibly killed, I'm gonna fucking get out of there.
Yeah, there's self-defense.
Any way I can.
Well, you don't know if she has a knife or something.
The most awesome scene in the movie is when he's finally escaped and he's walking down the street and he sees all those TVs of Rupert. Like, imagine that. That's like an indescribable feeling. Shout out Nicole Kidman. An indescribable feeling of like, what the fuck? Like, this guy did it. He made it on TV one way or another, dude.
Well, imagine, even in this day and age, I can't even imagine around 82 when Carson was doing his thing. Carson was doing his thing in 82, I think. Yeah, because he was in Home Alone.
Definitely.
But it's imagine if that had happened to I don't know, Jimmy Kimmel today. It'd still be a huge story. It'd be international.
No one wants to get on Jimmy Kimmel that bad, dude.
No, nobody does.
That's even more deranged.
What if somebody had Joe Rogan in his studio with like a gun on him, like
shit,
talking to him?
Pull it up, Jamie, right now.
Pull it up, Jamie, right now.
That's fucked up, dude.
Here's the thing: Joe Rogan can dodge bullets. Though is the problem. Joe Rogan will beat the shit out of you. He's on that HGH.
Yeah, that guy, that little manlet will fucking jump over that table.
His head is this big; it will just hammerhead you. It's really a powerful and thesis statement for the movie. And the last line of his set is, "Better to be king for a night than schmuck for a lifetime."
Yeah,
which I think is so true. That you have people. You know, I just popped into my head Stephen Yeun's character from Nope, who had a momentary child fame with Gordy's Home or whatever before stuff went awry in that movie. Go see Nope if you haven't. But and he has to cling on to that fame and make his career, even though it's a traumatic past for him, because stuff went awry, as we said.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things. I think it a lot of like, you see Ernie Hudson at Comic-Con, just because in his Ghostbusters uniform still, because his career, I don't know. I think even in the first Ghostbusters being in the 80s, we weren't ready for a black Ghostbuster. And I'm not even really joking. I think that has to do with it. He didn't even get cast to voice his own character in the cartoon because they said he didn't sound enough like himself.
Yeah.
Which is insane. But I'm saying there's all that sort of fame, but people are so desperate for that in American society. The quote I've heard is Americans don't believe they're poor. They think they're temporarily embarrassed millionaires. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I do think our celebrity culture, part of the tool, and it's not intentionally used by everybody, but I think part of it with corporations, whether they're the people in those are consciously doing it or not, it is to convince you that like, oh, it is attainable to some degree. There are these rag to riches stories. That's why I hate shit like A Star is Born and any of these rag to riches, especially the new A Star is Born, where it's still like sucking the dick of gatekeepers and Saturday Night Live and all the stuff when like that has died and should die.
Yeah.
Even La La Land to a lesser degree, I have that problem with like, oh, you need to network and schmooze and know the right people. And I know that's true, but it's frustrating. Anyway, my point is, I think that so perfectly encapsulates the movie. Just better be king for a night than schmuck for a lifetime. Because I do think a lot of people, when they can't settle for fame, will settle for infamy or doing NPC videos on TikTok.
And that, well, the most, and I'm dead serious, the most extreme example is fucking mass shooters.
I knew you were about to say that. I absolutely think that's true. I think it's to the point where people are so fed up and so starved for love and attention that they just say, I'll, you know, it's almost like J. Jonah Jameson. He doesn't want to be famous. I'll make him infamous.
But school shooters.
But actually.
But no, and that's the problem is like, of course, there's been a lot of discussion like when one of these events occurs, like don't share the name of the shooter because
don't share their mugshot, don't share the name, just be like the Park Hill shooter or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the most extreme example.
Well,
but that's how far we
now there's so many mass shooters I can't keep track of them all.
Yeah. That's
it's the same thing with police brutality victims. I'm like, I can't.
That, people think about that. That's where we are today. There's so many mass shooters that I can't even keep up with them. And that's I have no words for that.
I'm trying to think who the Secretary of State is right now. So how am I gonna remember all that? Who's the Secretary of State? Now I'm gonna God. Okay.
Yeah, but man. Solid picture from old Marty.
Solid picture. That's what he calls it. Old man.
He's got a cameo in this movie too. Where,
he does. He's the director of the late night show.
Yeah, and then they're kind of like, yeah, we like some of these jokes, and the other one's like, are you serious? And I don't know. And it's believable because hacky writers on set of late night show.
Hey, I wish I was a hacky writer on the late night show.
No, I don't. I don't want to be anywhere near Jimmy Kimmel's show.
I mean, for the credits.
Oh yeah, I know. It's just like.
Do it for one season.
That's the more fucked up part of like a contemporary version of like I want to be on Jimmy Kimmel so bad that I'm gonna commit a fucking crime.
Imagine if you're like during the Trump era, I want to be on Colbert with the Trump jokes and the orange Cheeto jokes.
Yeah, who would play Rupert Pupkin today?
Me.
Okay.
No. I'm trying to think. TJ Miller. No, he's normal crazy. He had a head injury. That's why. He had people were like, TJ Miller's crazy. It's like he has brain traumas. But then also he's calling him bomb threats. So is that as jokes? And I'm like, is that brain trauma or is that just you're an asshole? I don't know. That's a lot. There's like forgetting names and then there's calling and bomb threats. Those are two different things.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question. Leave it in the comments. If you had to cast Rupert Pupkin today,
who would be the worst?
Me and TJ Miller.
Who would be the worst comedian to cast? Not that Robert De Niro is a comedian, but like it would be if it was made today, they would cast a real comedian.
Jared Nathan, who's a comedian with Down syndrome, who's like a Kill Tony regular.
That would be interesting.
Or
that'd
Ryan
make it more interesting.
That is Down syndrome, yeah. Or I don't know. One of the like Ryan Niemiller who has flipper hands or something.
What do you? This is all ableist shit now.
Yeah, I know. I'm being real ableist. You said the worst.
I don't know.
Theo Vaughn.
Theo Vaughn would be interesting.
I don't know. Joey Diaz would be too realistic. He can just kidnap people.
Yeah.
It's too old.
Anyway,
now.
Thanks for listening, everybody. This has been The Harbor. Marty Scorsese. Next week, I'm not sure. I forgot what's next week. Yeah, I look forward to it anyway. I've got a video essay on Asteroid City coming soon, so look forward to that. Yeah. Thanks everybody. We'll see you next week.